Subscribe to Film Companion for your film fix. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.
So everybody, welcome to the FC DOP Adda. I am so thrilled to have all of you here. It's just, I feel like a kid in a candy store. Oh my God, I've just got so many questions. We could be here all night, but I will try and contain my enthusiasm. First of all, the images you all have created and the films that you worked on have enriched our lives immeasurably. So thank you all for that. I want to start with a general question, and please, everybody, sort of answer. This is going to be edited, so please don't be nervous, Sudeep. We can't. There's no wrong answer. Okay. So tell me first, what is the one thing that people just don't get about what a DOP does on a film set? What is the biggest misconception about your job?
We're all waiting for someone to speak.
Yeah,
I think we are like
Actually.
the mother of the project. We are like the affectionate, caring mother who looks after the film like with a motherly affection, and the film is like kids. So that's something people don't realize. But
I feel like people feel that we just hold the camera on our shoulders all day long. That's what I've been told. Are you okay? Is your shoulder okay? I'm like, yes, I'm fine. We don't have to put it here all day.
actually, the role of a cinematographer is so elaborate that even the critics have missed it. Actually, they often think that some beautiful landscape is what it is all about. I don't think that of course, nowadays there are only critics on social media, but most of them actually, it's like differentiating between a good actor who has acted a good role and confusing the character with the acting. Sometimes a good character might be the one that you actually like, but not maybe the acting. Similarly, I feel there is so much of finer sensibilities that people, especially DOPs, put together in the film, which might have missed sometimes. But I think it is important that when people analyze a film, they also analyze it because finally it's a visual medium. So I think it is important that you people should lead the way, actually.
I think people are generally not very aware of what happens behind the camera most of the times. And that's okay. I mean, in cinema, the most visible thing are the actors and, how they're acting. So people are more aware of the actors than any other department that's working behind the camera. So yes, I mean there is a general level of unawareness of all the departments that are behind the camera.
So it's not personal to DOPs. They don't have a clue what anyone's doing.
Yeah,
Basically.
yes.
In fact, I remember very distinctively in Bombay, when I was shooting Roja, I was busy with something else, and there was a 5-day gap where Madhubala was available and we could do a song. And so the producer asked Maniratnam, why don't we shoot the song, because Santosh is busy, only 5 days work, we can easily finish it. So Mani told the producer, how about changing the heroine also? So there was that kind of understanding. It was not about clash work, because the film belonged to you, and in the film always are together.
Yeah.
Of course, I never used to do too many NFDC films, because NFDC films mostly there's no budget, and also after the film, when they do the film, they'll say our film, but after the film, they normally say my film, and it gets off like that. So it's a very dicey situation. So you say, okay, if you think I'm good and I have to shoot your NFDC film, then you pay me what I charge. Don't expect me to do it in a concessional level like that.
Yeah.
No,
I want to talk about the director, but Priya, first finish what you were saying.
Yeah, so I think what was interesting about what Santosh started off with is this in music, right? You learn to listen. And when you learn to listen to music and classical music, the more aware you are and the more exposure you have, the more nuances you can actually pick up. And I think it's the same thing with cinematography. The more you know about it, and even as a viewer, the more educated you are, the more you'll understand, which is why I think, as he was saying, the onus does at some level come upon people who write about films, to write about the various behind the scenes crafts in a certain more informative manner and slightly more with little more information, so that people can then read a film just more than just the actors or the location. Because we kind of most often there's a misconception that beautiful locations make beautiful cinematography. That is mostly the review that comes up. But the more people learn about it, I think that's the only way they will understand our craft.
Rachel Morrison, who's the first female DOP to be nominated for an Oscar, said that the description of a cinematographer is someone who channels empathy into visual imagery. Anil, would you agree with that? Is that an accurate description of what you do?
I think the key word there was empathy. It's like Priya, Santosh, everyone has been saying that, cinematography gets interpreted or perceived as the art of making pictures or just visuals. It's actually an art of storytelling. So with the director, with the screenplay and with the director, you are like a co-narrator of the film. And your tool and your means are the camera and the visuals. But it's just a whole lot more than that, because to create feeling from those visuals is a whole, sensitization of all your senses to bring a certain, like you said, empathy to the narrative.
Santosh, you talked
Precisely.
about working with a director, and you were saying you're a co-creator. So I was listening to this podcast that Roger Deakins and his wife James do together. It's called Team Deakins, and they did one session with Denis Villeneuve, with whom they've made Sicario and Blade Runner, and the two men talked about sharing a camera. And I love that idea that here are two artists who talk about sharing a camera. So you all are, in a sense, the director's biggest ally on a set. You are the co-author of the film. You are the kattappa to his or her Bahubali, right? How do you nurture this marriage? Santosh, you said you spent so many hours and hours talking with Mani, and Mani says change the heroine. If somebody suggested change the DOP. But how does this marriage actually work when there are two big artists trying to collaborate?
Actually, sharing the camera used to happen quite a bit during the early days. Now you have multiple cameras, so anyone can have their own cameras. So if the director feels that, okay, this camera should be there in a conventional position, and you think that we could also go this way, most people will agree, maybe because I'm a senior DOP, otherwise they would have told them to go to hell or something. But the fact is that they will try to appreciate and see your point of view. See, I feel that when you work with the director, one of the most important thing is to give the feeling to the director that you are actually very interested in his story. He is not going to encourage you to experiment if you want to put your light there and that is more convenient to you. But if he believes that this guy knows the story well and he is talking about things that makes or elevates the story, then he is going to listen to anything you say, because he knows that your prime aim is to get the film into a better platform like that,
But Santosh, you are, of course, a veteran of the field. I think it's some 12 national awards. He's basically the Meryl Streep of DOPs. He wins one every other year. But Mitesh and Pankaj, how does sharing a camera work for you? Do directors, are they open to that idea of co-authorship?
In my case, yes. It has been true with all the collaborations, luckily, I've had with people I've worked with. So the key word you mentioned was marriage. It works like any other marriage. There are two individuals, two people involved. So it begins from sharing ideas to everything that you believe in, and all the ideas of life. So it begins much before the shooting begins. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, just like any other marriage. So individuals, and the key word is understanding. As long as you understand each other, at a much deeper level, then the collaboration becomes much more fruitful. So in my case, the collaboration begins much before the shoot begins. And it begins with sharing ideas and everything about life and what we believe in, all the stories, not just the script we are doing, but everything that we think of. So, and that gets translated in shoot. You know, whenever we have to take a shot, it depends on. I mean, if the understanding is good, then this thing about sharing the camera is very fruitful. If the understanding is lacking, then you get into conflict zones. Then things just don't fall into place. So yes, the key word is understanding, like in any marriage. So, Mitesh,
I mean, for me,
And
it's
happy marriages.
happy
Yeah.
marriages. Yeah, the wishful.
I mean, for me,
thing.
part of accepting a project is also dependent quite a lot on whether if the director would like to be collaborative. You know, I mean that is very important, and it's part of the process. I mean, that's the only way I'll be excited through the process of making the movie. I mean, if the director or anybody for that matter wants to lead the way and not take suggestions or opinions, that automatically just demotivates us to even ideate at that moment. So I think that is very important on the basis of picking the job itself or picking the director you want to collaborate with. And I think once that ship has sailed, then I think on the basis of that you take a decision as to how. Because a lot of the directors I've worked with, there are very few who are actually visually driven and visually inclined. I mean, I haven't had the fortune of working with a lot of directors who are. They actually let you be. They say that okay, we've got this script. They'll give you an initial brief in the beginning of the project, and then they let you be and do your thing. So sometimes I miss the process of collaborating even more, and sometimes it's a lot. So it's a good balance. I mean, I'm not complaining, but it's just there are those flip sides to things as well.
Yeah.
Sudeep, you've done 2 films with Sanjay Bansali, and so have you, Anil. Supposedly,
Actually, I have,
hardest people to work with in terms of just the perfection that he is pursuing constantly. How do you work in a situation like that?
Sudeep should go first. He has done many more films.
Yeah, so I'm working on my 4th with Sanjay.
Correct. So how does it work, Sudeep? And Sanjay has a reputation for being a difficult artist only because he's such a perfectionist.
I mean, I wouldn't say difficult. I would say, a perfectionist. That comes with its own baggage. But I mean, I don't find it difficult. I mean, I find it difficult when I work with somebody else, because once you get used to your director demanding so much, and you actually realize that you can actually go beyond yourself and create something, because that when I don't work with him and work with somebody else, I really miss that somebody pushing me that hard. And because it's also a discovery that how much you can do, because with Sanjay, it's like on the 200th day of the shoot, if you're not at your 500%, then it's very disappointing for him. So and one starts to enjoy that.
It is. What's wrong with you, right?
So, I kind of start enjoying that because and it's also over the years, then it's a relationship of trust. I mean, you just realize that okay, I mean that this person is there for the film. It's like everything that he's going to be doing is for the movie. So so I don't find it difficult. I in fact find it very stimulating.
And Anil, for you too?
I think there's a misconception about Sanjay, that he's difficult and that he's problematic to work with and all that. That's like a perception. And I mean, like Sudeep is saying, the fact is that he's extremely passionate about what he's doing. And that's all you need actually to make a good film. Having said that, Sanjay is also a great collaborator. Again, might go against the perceived notion about Sanjay.
Absolutely.
But he's a great collaborator. So when he brings you into the film and then you belong to the film and then you sort of work together to make it happen, that's what we are all here for, So I've never missed a beat with Sanjay, and I've always gone the entire distance with him. And that's probably the most fulfilling thing. I mean, that's for the cinematographer, that's the most fulfilling thing.
Priya, what is the biggest thing you consider when you start figuring out how to frame and light a scene? What are some of the key things on your checklist?
I think it starts a lot before it's not that you come on set and you think about how you frame or like that. And so obviously the prep of it, and it's when you read the script. And I think for me, I liken it to, I actually take physical notes like homework with my script. I sit there and actually just write. So instead of looking at a lot of visuals, I sit and write out. I describe what I'm seeing from there and then take it from that point. And I go back sometimes and look at the notes that I've made when I've done it like way before, and I look at it even a year later. it's quite accurate. And I think it's a process I find almost of like, like a snake coming out of the skin. Like I just feel like it's quite a painful process where you have to just sit and really dig deep in, and then finally something emerges. And I think if you dig deep within and it's done with some integrity, it is quite, on point when you come on set. And I think on set is just literally that is just the execution of the job. I don't think that's where we all come and sit and actually prepare, or we try to figure out where the camera is going to go. By then, you pretty much figure it out. Of course, you might change last minute, but all of that happens far, far before you actually get on set.
So, I was reading this interview with Bradford Young, the Oscar-nominated DOP of Arrival and Selma, and he said that apart from actors, DOPs are the most vulnerable people on a set. Would you all agree with this?
I think so. I'm a bit
Yes,
sensitive
yes.
on set. I'm a bit sensitive.
True that.
Again,
Anyway.
almost against perceived notions about a cinematographer being the guy who, handles a large crew and handles an army and, calls the shots and like is this big figure all in control of the situation. That's the appearance. But vulnerability is probably at the back end of it, because every shot, every take is almost, you're wondering whether it really turned out well or not.
Yeah, like a performance.
And the most stressed also, actually.
And the most stressful.
And the most stressed person also, I think, is the DOP.
Is the
The
DOP
most stressed
on set,
person in
yes.
the
Yeah.
set, because because the light, the guy doesn't come, the lady wants to do another touch up, everything, and the light is going. So we are always fighting against light going. So you tend to get a little angry sometime, and so you know how it is. So you're stressed too, you have to handle stress for sure.
Yeah, with this the thing about you're always the spine of the show, and you have to be really together because you've got to run, you've got all of that. And I think the temper and the temperament of the set, apart from the director, because they now are off on a monitor somewhere sitting, and possibly at a distance from everyone else. But the mood of the set is pretty much determined by the DP and how you are managing everything or conducting yourself. So with all of that stress and the vulnerability, you still have to keep it together, because if you don't and your department starts falling apart, it does actually permeate downwards. So absolutely, I think it is. That's where the hair comes really fast.
What amazes me is how, whenever I've been on a film shoot, the shot gets done, and of course the actors get a break. Everybody seems to, but the DP, the lighting guys, there's just no break. There's nothing. You go from one scene to the next scene. You start talking about the next scene. It's physically also an extremely grueling job, isn't it?
Yeah, I think physically it is. I think you're always, like for example, you experience all kinds of nature. It is not like going to the snow and throwing some snowball at each other. You experience it for 1.5 months. Your shoes are wet. So you experience almost all kinds of nature. I remember I was taken to Scotland to do a song for Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and they just strapped me to a helicopter. And they want to go round and round, these two people standing there. And Scotland is full of wind. So when it comes this side and your window is open, it just pulls you back like that, and you don't have a focus puller, nothing. You have to do the zoom, everything yourself. So you wonder. Of course, I love the thrill of it, But the fact is that you have to have a thrill for such things also. So I think you take it in that spirit. So even when you fly through Grand Canyon, I think it's a fantastic adventure we guys have actually. In fact,
Actually, yes,
you'll be very,
I second that.
Yeah,
It's actually thrilling and exciting. I would much rather be involved all the time on a shoot rather than sitting in the background and wait for the next shot. When is it going to begin? So we have the most thrilling job on set, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is a cinematographer by design the most congenial, the most understanding person on a set? Because you are dealing with the director, you of course are dealing with the actor, you have to work very closely with the production designer, because that's your frame and that's your visual. As Priya said, your crew is setting the kind of the texture of that shoot. So are you all nice people?
We believe so.
Yeah,
Of course.
that's what
We
we
are all
say in
very
public.
nice people, the nicest people on, on
I,
set
I, I think
are us.
I think the fact is that most actors are good to you actually. But supposing because they see you like a friend, a director, suddenly if a director happens, then it has become like a marriage. So there are now everyone has whose duty it is. Now whenever you go to a set, the cinema, the actor, even in the previous film, is most nicest to you. Will be very most he'll treat you. He'll drop you to the car, like that kind of a respect you have. But once you turn your instincts to be a producer or a director, and then want something from with this thing, then the equation slowly changes. So I really think that the cinematographers, by and large, I think are some of the most liked people, especially abroad. We have every week after the shoot someone voting which is the best team of people. Is it the sound team? Is it the cinematography team? It is that team, this team. So
Cinematography team, always.
yeah, mostly, yeah. Otherwise, we'll bribe them. No, we will get our things done. But I think as
I
a
think that's why certain
cinematographer,
people are successful and some are not. If you look at people's careers, I think that's the thing. It's a very important quality. That man management quality is, I think, it's as important as your ability to light, because you're handling a lot of people. And as Priya said, that largely the mood of the set is largely set by you. So and you also have to take out work from people when you're giving a command. A lightman has to go at top speed. He has to go and he'll do the job. You have to be very inspiring. And I think that all this quality comes from niceness. I mean, people have to love you to be able to give their best.
yes, very true, very true. Because when you come in the morning and if your production boy gives you a cup of tea with a smile, your day is made, and then you be
Absolutely.
nice to him.
Oh, yeah.
Then it just carries on, And then only your assistants will say that he's just acting. He's actually very rude. We are going to get it. So your assistants know you better. So I don't think that we might be the nicest people, but we appear so. Yeah.
Santosh, you brought
Because if you see me shoot something during Twilight's time, and when the light is going, everyone hates you. Actors
Yes,
are petrified
exactly.
of you. Yeah, actors are petrified of you. They don't even come near you.
Are any of you screamers? Anil, somehow I can't imagine you screaming ever. Are you? You seem very zen-like. What do you like on a set?
No, let me first clarify. This whole house has said, that the cinematographers are the nicest people on set.
That's what we believe.
Yeah. Lots of contrary stories. Having said it's the most stressful profession, that you're on your feet the whole day, that you're very vulnerable. Now, given all this, can you imagine all cinematographers being the nicest people on the earth? No, they're also irritable. They get angry. Stuff doesn't get done. You're screaming your lungs out. All that stuff is part and parcel of this package.
I remember Anil screaming when he was acting in the institute film which I was shooting actually. I was behind camera and I heard him screaming that time. So I presume he understands how difficult it is for the actors actually. Yeah.
But having said that, I still maintain that, like Sudeep was saying, that if you don't have a sense of calm, then you cannot work this profession, because it involves all these little, all these layers and all these processes that are just going through you all the time. Like you said, you're on your feet the whole day and day after day after day.
Yeah.
So both things go together actually.
Yeah.
But most directors don't agree with that actually, that you're calm and all, because you're hurrying them up most of the time. You're not giving them enough time, you know what I mean? When me and Mani are shooting, we are competing who is faster, who will do it faster like that. So we take it up as a challenge. And both of us really like working fast, normally because you are trying to capture something which is fleeting. So you have to work fast. So I imbibed that quality to work very fast. So I like to work very fast. Then then suddenly you land up with someone like MF Hussain, who doesn't even come to the set and gives you a sketch and says, "This is what I want," and then goes off. So one day I told him, how can these two people stand there and say all these dialogues in the middle of the road like that? It is a little problem in Meenakshi. So he looked at me and says, okay, Santosh, no need of dialogues. He tore up about those 6-7 pages and threw it into the air and says, this will have no dialogues. And he went off. Now, how can you handle him now next time, you know? So you have all kinds of people, actually, you don't know, you know. So but of course you learn something from everyone.
We're supposed to be cool and calm and, you know, you lose your temper. And I think, but what I think everyone consistently across the board, whether you are nice or not nice, I think the one idea that everyone has is that you can't lose your center. So you may lose your temper and you may lose all of that, but you can't lose your focus through all of that. And I think however you choose to express your anxiety on set, it may be with being congenial or empathetic or losing your temper many times. But the one thing, and I think that becomes with more practice and the older you get, is that you can't get distracted from what that central thread is, you know. So you have to manage your emotions really well because you're the first person who's to get back involved. So something can be happening on the side, but you need to focus in the next 2 seconds and roll camera and make sure that everything actually. So I think that centering is very important.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been the flip side. Actually, sorry. It's been a while since I haven't really been stressed on set. It's been a really long time. The reason why that is because I've actually ended up working with the same crew for the last 7 years in terms of camera, in terms of grips, lights, everything. So a lot of the stress that comes in from those people, and I have a great first assistant who handles things really well. And since the time I shot Neerja, every single time after that, I've actually, whenever I get to set, I'm only thinking about the shot and I'm only thinking about what the story requires. I'm not worrying about the lights because we've already discussed that in pre and we've already sorted out those things. So it's actually been, I can't complain about being stressed. My life has become really easy. As I get more experience, it becomes easier. Because I think things just become a bit more sorted. So,
sure.
I think the only time to get stressed is when the sun is going down.
Yeah, that's the only time.
Otherwise, it's all sorted.
That's it. Yeah.
By a good team.
Unfortunately,
Not always like that. Yeah, see, I got really stressed once. You know, I went with Mani to shoot a song in Hogenekel River, which is like a big falls. You know, I don't know if you've seen Hogenekel. It's a big falls. It's like a big waterfall, and but it was a very common shooting place to shoot there. So Mani asked me, how can we make this look different? Because we are going to do a song here. So I just said, like a joke, I said, let us shoot it at night like that, you know. And suddenly he actually caught on it. He said, you said let's shoot on night. So we had these elderly ladies come under the waterfall. Most of them can't hear also. They don't know when the song is starting, and the generators don't come there, so we don't have place to put lights wherever we want to.
This is Rukmani, na?
Yeah. So when I put all these 5 kV, big 5 kV lights, they glow like a lamp, and the meter is laughing at you, and all that stuff, you know. And then I'm really stressed now. So I get lots of mirrors and shine it from there from under the waterfall over, all kinds of nonsense. Then I thought that maybe it is good because there's always this spray in the water, you know, under the water. So I thought maybe if I push the film a little more, you know, make it like 1200 AC or whatever. So I took lots of tests and then shot it. And now once the film is, if you see the film, more than the spray, it's the grains actually on the, you know, on it actually. But it actually worked. And Mani said, I think it looks like some Vogue old people dancing. It looks nice, you know, because those days we had only rushes, you know. We used to hide lights with leaves and all that so that you can't see the source and things like that. So, but those were stressful times because you didn't even have, you had 2 HMIs and you have to light up a whole waterfall, and you know, you have these people who don't know when to take the cue because most of them can't hear. So we had a lot of hassle, you know. Now that is stressful, and to shoot all night like that is really stressful, you know. Those kind of stress is also physical stress, which makes it even worse because that is my most nightmarish incident while shooting.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Santosh, it's actually the first time I noticed light in a movie was in Rukmani when I saw those backlights, and I was like, oh my God, this doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before. So it was well worth it. It was well worth it. But I want to ask you about this whole conversation between film and digital. Okay, this is an ongoing conversation. Nolan was here a few years ago to tell us again about the importance of film, what we lose when we are watching movies on digital. But Sudeep, I read an interview that you did, and you talked about Dhoom 3, which was one of the first big Hindi films to go all digital. And you said that you convinced director Vijay Krishna Acharya and the producer Adi Chopra by shooting a scene on film and on digital, and they couldn't tell the difference, right? And because they couldn't tell the difference, you convinced them that you can just shoot on digital.
Actually, no. It's not that they couldn't tell the difference. I said that choose the one that you like the most.
Correct.
So,
and they chose digital.
Yeah, so they pointed at the digital, at the Alexa footage, and they said, this is film and we like this. So, I mean, for me, that was the right film to jump into digital. I mean, the thought actually came to me when I was printing Guzarish. This was 2011. And, we had a fantastic Technicolor printing process that had just come to India. And we did the prints on Technicolor, and it was just fantastic. The prints were so good. But at that point, I also realized that for all of Bombay, we just required 6 film prints. Rest, everything was digital. And those 6 prints were some, odd theater in Kurla and something in, Bhiwandi, and like all the main theaters and everything was already digital. And so the DCP was very important. So the thought came to me that if that's the case, what if we originate on digital? And so I started looking into it. And by the time it was actually, it was in a good place. Digital was in a good place. And so I shot.
So my question is, Sudeep, if people can't tell the difference, what do we as viewers actually lose now that it's mostly digital? Because honestly, as viewers, what are we losing? I hear people talk about the grain of film, the texture of film and how film looks, but the truth is most of us can't tell. So
no, you're not supposed to tell. You're not supposed to tell. I mean, the grain and the texture can all be put artificially. I can put it. I can make it exactly. I can shoot on digital. I can make it exactly look like film. So it's not that. I think as an artist, all these formats should be there for you to choose. Sometimes you want to. A painter would want to, do acrylic. Sometimes you would want to do watercolor. It's eventually, I don't give that much importance to this particular thing. It's more about what you're creating, and these are all tools. You can create it in any way. So I think, but as an artist, I would like to have all the options. I should be able to shoot in film if I want to. It's more about that. My personal process. I don't think
agree. I mean, if it's an option, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think also film is a chemical process. There's in digital you have to know exactly what you want to get. With film, sometimes it was you actually weren't aware of something that changed, and or the bleach or whatever the process didn't actually do what it was needed to do, and you got something new that you'd never seen before. So the happy accidents used to happen, and now I think with digital you have to. The only happy accident the sad accidents happen. No happy accidents. It's like you've lost all your footage or something like that.
The reason that I would want to go back and shoot something on film is largely very romantic. I mean, I used to love the romance of film. I like to hear the sound of the film rolling right next to my ear, and it was very nice. I mean, one would like to go back for that romance purely.
So
there's a certain joy. Yeah, there's a certain joy in the process of shooting on film. Other than that, I don't see film having any advantage over digital per se. Like, there's nothing that you can't achieve in digital that you can achieve on film. In fact, you can achieve a lot more with the current technology that we have, which you could not achieve with film before. Just the evolution of technology has made cameras exist in so many different forms and shapes. You can put cameras in places which you could never think of before. You can shoot so many kinds of, just Sony Venice, you can separate the camera sensor and the camera body. And that allows you to put the camera in places which you could never think of before. Just the shape, the ergonomics of cameras can exist in different form, from a small GoPro camera to big studio camera systems. So the amount of flexibility we have with the technology today, it allows us to think in ways which restrictions in technology and medium were not allowing us to do before. So I would welcome that. So yes, so film should exist as an option because there is a certain joy in shooting it. There is a certain aesthetic to it. But I
Yes,
think the film versus digital debate is quite old and obsolete right
It's
now.
long gone.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
yes, but I feel, but we don't have to polarize. But what Sudipto and everyone said is very right because it is a choice that we have. I personally feel that the film is kinder to faces. I personally feel. I feel that I would rather look at what I'm shooting than look at a monitor when I light. Because now I'm dependent on looking at a monitor to see if things are going right. So I did a very big film called Tupaki, which was remade into Holiday, I think, in Hindi. So I did the original, but at that time I said I will go digital, and everyone was very upset, including the producer, because it's a huge 100 crore film. So it's a huge film. But I said I will do digital because I felt that there should be horses for every different courses, like that kind of a thing. And so here I could put my lead actor Vijay in Bandra, have 3 hidden cameras, and shoot him from inside a car and get a fantastic coverage with very natural people moving around. And also, I found it very easy because the director didn't want to shoot on Sundays on the main roads, which Bombay doesn't allow. They don't allow shooting, early morning in Nariman Road and all that stuff. So we devised a plan. So we used to go early morning, had the main actor, no lights and all that, and used to shoot. Then the BMC would come and confiscate our camera and push off. And then, but we had another camera ready. So once it was gone, we used to take that camera and shoot it. If that went, we had another camera ready. So we shot the whole film like that, actually.
Yeah.
So I think, sometimes it's interesting to do that kind of filmmaking. I find it very interesting. Now, of course, most of us into digital also because there is, they want to suddenly use a drone shot. You can't have 3 film cameras and 3 digital cameras and 2 drones and things like that. So, and also the labs are no longer reliable. We don't know the stock we get is fresh. Otherwise, I would definitely love to experiment with film, especially some classical films if you're making, or a romantic film. I would definitely love to do all that, actually.
Santosh, you said that film is kinder to faces. So, Anil, I want to ask you, you've shot massive movies with massive stars. And of course, the Hindi film industry is very star-driven. Do you find yourself ever struggling to balance between lighting for the star and lighting for the character?
Lighting specifically for stars vis-a-vis lighting for character, even on a film like Humdil, I feel I lit for character. And it's the scope of the film. The scope of the film is telling you that this film is intended as, even from prep, is intended as a very good looking film, which is mounted in this manner. It starts at the, prep stage when you're building sets and things like that. Why would you have a garba on a floor like that, So those cues come to you early. So you know the scope of the film and your lighting. So it's not just character as the actor's character, but the character of the film itself. And I feel that in Humdil, I felt free to explore what I wanted to do with the lighting and not be, encumbered by a certain requirement of the star.
So you never have those conversations where a star tells you, make me look prettier?
I've rarely had that encounter, but yes, you're right. Those situations do come up and they are a little tough to navigate. And I guess you have to, take your call at the moment of either what the person is saying makes sense to you or it doesn't, and then you ride over it. But it's, luckily for me, it's been a very, very rare occurrence. So if you get the spirit of the piece right, why should you have this quarrel,
Right. Yeah.
So if I'm shooting an item song for Katrina Kaif, which I haven't done many of, then that that's the purpose you're there for. So why fight that?
Correct. So, Priya, you described yourself in an interview as an animal in a zoo because you said not only am I a female DOP, but I'm a female DOP who specializes in underwater shooting. Right? Now, tell me, the Women's Cinematographers Collective pegs about 80 female DOPs in the country. Is this situation evolving rapidly?
Evolving as in what?
As in, is it getting better for women, or is it still a very tough landscape?
It's still very tough. I think what's happening is that maybe there's a little more exposure in our little echo chamber, and we all know that there are more women DPs around, and so there's a lot more conversation within the DPs. But when it comes to actually, well, you would say that the situation is getting better when they can break into mainstream. Well, not only, I'm not talking about Bombay or the Hindi film industry, but just getting mainstream work, all over. And I think that isn't really changing very much. It is still equally difficult. They are still all shooting. And what's ended up happening, a lot of the women are ending up shooting, directing, editing stuff. Because if they want to get projects done, they have to do multiple things to make sure they actually have control over the project. So I think it's been a very, very incremental and small growth compared to where it should be by the numbers that are available. Not about 70 or 80, about 150, because this is all over. Yeah. So this is between Calcutta, Delhi, everywhere.
Yeah.
And it is still, the growth is very, very tiny. And I think people are still very, very, not very willing to experiment with working with women. It is an experiment. It's not something that you're going to hire women. It still is like, let me go out on a limb and see how this would be. It's still not nowhere near mainstream, far away.
And you think it's going to be a while before we get there?
Yeah, I'm not very, very long time.
Well, you're paving the way, so thank you for that. I wanted to also ask you all about sometimes just how difficult shoots can be. Like Pankaj, you did Tumbar, which went over many, many years. You shot for 120 days. You said the recce itself took several years. Now, when something like that happens, how do you stay invested in a project? How do you still stay on top of your game and kind of, say that, no, this is what I'm here to do, even though it goes on and on and on, not for any fault of yours?
It's not easy. It's quite frustrating, actually. And I actually thought of leaving the film a lot of times, during the process. It's quite frustrating to remain invested in a film for a very long time, because especially when you want your life to go on, onto other things, especially when you're involved with people at a personal level. It goes into so many conflicts, it goes into argument zones, so it becomes difficult. But Tumbar was special. It was somewhere within, I realized that it was important to stick with this film because this is special. This is not just another film. This is not just another job. And I was involved in the film right from the conception level, from the story level. And all of us were friends. So no matter how much we fought with each other, we knew that we had to get back to this film to complete it. The frustration of it was that it's not completing, it's not finishing. The process had to have, to have an end, to just see it through. So that was a frustration that it's not ending. So yes, it was difficult, but because when you feel that something is special, then you push yourself that much. So
you see it through.
You see it through, yes. You push.
Sorry. Please go on.
If I did not feel so special about the film, I would have left it a long time back. If it was just another job, then there's no point sticking with a film. Then most of the times when a film goes in a spiral, then it ends badly. It reflects a complete lack of clarity in the minds of filmmakers, and it goes into chaos. So it's better to just move on than to stick with it. But in some special cases, rare cases where you feel that no, instead of moving on, stick with it, see it to the end. So Tumbar was that case.
And good things happened after that.
Yes, thankfully it paid off.
So, guys, I promise 2 more questions and I'll let you all go. You're like, she's gonna be here forever. She will be here all night. No, so literally last 2 questions. One is that we are now all consuming content online, right? We have no idea when theaters will reopen again. And just wondering, are you all at all concerned about the shrinking of the screen? Do you think at all about how it will impact on your art?
Well,
Yes.
I'm a lover of big screen. I don't want my images to shrink. So it's a very selfish motive. I think for every cinematographer would want his or her images to be seen in the best possible way on the largest possible screen. So yes, it's. I wouldn't want people to watch Tumbad, for instance, or any of my films on their small screen on phone. But having said that, the extent of reach that the streaming media provides us, the number of audience that our films can reach is actually more important than the largeness of the screen. So in a way, it's a good thing that more and more number of people are going to watch our work than they would be able to watch on the big screen. The streaming media gives us that. Other than that, I do not worry about it too much. It's not going to change my framing style or anything, because once as an audience, if you're invested in the film, then you become a part of the universe, and you forget the size of the screen and you completely get into the world. So as long as we are able to provide that experience, I think the size of the screen does not ultimately matter.
Mitesh,
That responsibility is also with us, that I think we should just shoot it so well that people would look at the promo and then decide that we'll go and watch it on the big screen. I mean, it would be not good enough to watch it on a small screen. The images should be that powerful, and that's what I keep in mind when I.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, actually, because see, I think most of us cinematographers would like to see it on a big screen because of so many reasons. First and foremost, it becomes very immersive. It is an immersive thing because you're all in a darkened room. It is a social gathering, which all humans like to have a social gathering. Even a small joke, which you might only slightly smile, but if the audience evaporates into a big laughter, it will become a big laughter. Same thing can happen to Salman Khan doing a bomb blast or hitting something. There is more of involvement from everyone happening, and of course, your sound system is much more interesting. And I think more and more things, or even if you watch a horror film in a darkened room, it's a different experience than watching it on a computer or this thing. If a lady screams from behind you, you are finished. So you have a lot of these extra things happening.
Mitesh, were you saying something?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying that we're actually working towards enhancing the image in terms of every single aspect of it, increasing the resolution, trying to get better our cameras, sound equipment, but eventually the viewing experience is resorting to the phone. I mean, I think it is a bit saddening, but again, I do agree with whatever they said about pan audience. But I mean, I know a lot of people that enjoy watching a movie on their phone, and they're reducing the efforts. I mean, they're not hearing the movie on headphones or a sound system that could get them that experience. So I believe that a lot of our efforts, as Santosh said, that I think it's a cue for us to start working harder.
Okay, last question, folks. So the film industry is currently in a complete upheaval, right? Nothing we knew pre-pandemic, it's all changing, and we have no idea what it's going to look like at the other end of this. But if you could just choose one thing that you would want to change about your ecosystem, what would it be? What is the one thing on your wish list that hopefully post-pandemic, this will be different? Priya, can we start with you? What should be different?
Working hours. I think we would all hope that there can be some amount of discipline with working hours, and because it's called a 12-hour day, which then goes into 1 hour of pre-call and 1 hour of post, and you've got to a 14-15 hour days on end, and that's for us who leave. Then for our crew, they become 17-18 hour days, and it's just unfair and it's wrong. And if there's one thing that should change post pandemic, it should be working hours for film crews.
Absolutely.
Sudeep?
Absolutely agree with you. I mean, that's primarily the most important point. I mean, all of our personal lives take such a beating when we're working such long hours. And I think we can produce better work.
Yeah, and also it's true. No, see, I basically feel bad because during the pandemic, there are so many of our daily wages people. A lot of us try to help them out as much as we can. but we really have to sympathize with them. And now suddenly they're saying that if you're over 65, you cannot work and things like that, especially among light boys and things like that. So I think we have to they're all our people, so we have to look after them in whichever way possible. In fact, I think more hygiene is, of course, going to happen, because I was actually stuck in Bombay, and when I came by flight, the flight was full. But I think they did a good job by taking care of a lot of hygienic measures and things like that. In fact, just after the pandemic, I am actually supposed to direct a movie. So I've already seen locations and all that stuff. Now I don't know where I can shoot, what I can shoot, I don't know. But the fact is that a lot of people are really wanting to go back to work. And also, I think that would be very good that everyone goes back to work, because I think we have to really look after our people, because all the daily wages are the ones who are really, really being troubled, actually, I would say,
I think there's no difference of opinion here. The fact is that we've very often been labeled as a slightly chaotic industry, and which is true. So we do tend to end up looking like mobs, to the international crews and work in very chaotic ways. So I'm just hoping that this sensitization to, if social distancing is the word to use, but just the fact that we can work in a more peaceful and a more disciplined way will be the big learning that we can take from the pandemic, and then not make it an excuse, like Santosh is saying, to exclude people, So it has to be an inclusive situation where the producers now start worrying about the health of the crew. They start working in a more disciplined way, and we in turn then, the discipline percolates down the line. And we as heads of department of a very large section of the crew make sure that we work in a more organized and a more disciplined way. That should be the take home.
Yes, I second everything that has been said. Working hours need to be more streamlined, sets need to be much cleaner, crew needs to be much more disciplined. Other than that, I want everything to get back to normal. I want the collective viewing experience to come back. I actually enjoy the chaos and excitement of shoot. I hope nothing changes in that department. So let's get back. I'm just waiting for everything to just get back to normal. I think Pankaj is
saying a very important thing, this firstly, this isolation, and even what you were saying about the OTT platforms becoming the more pervasive way of viewing, is that essentially just as human behavior, this collective experience can't go away, because that is quintessentially us, that's human nature. So then what Santosh was describing as the lived experience when you're in a film theater, it can't go away. We can't allow that to happen, so because he's calling it immersive. Now people are doing spending so much time in their individual spaces with individual devices. It's going to show up in some crazy way down the line, because it's almost as basic as going against human nature.
Yeah.
So I share Pankaj's concern. Let's just get back. Let's get back in a more disciplined way, and let's make it work for everyone. That's the joy of almost living. Forget creating films.
Yeah. Mitesh, last word to you.
For me, I agree with everyone, but it's more of a personal approach where I realized that I was working too much. I think I need to take some time off, and I think I'm going to take more time off once I start working, and I'm going to segregate that time to allot to my family and my loved ones and all of those things. I think I've learned an important thing during this process.
Well, I really hope and pray that we're all soon sitting in theaters and appreciating all the amazing work that you do. The images you all create are not justified on phones. I'm sorry. As much as I love OTTs, I need to see those images on a big screen. But thank you all. Thank you for making the time, and cannot wait to see whatever it is you create next. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye guys. Bye guys.
If you like this video, subscribe to Film Companion.